Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Midrock Crisis. I, of course, am East Coast Pete, your host. Now, this next artist, I really can't say I know enough about, not because there's not a lot to be found out about him. It's just that there's so much to be found out about him. It's because he's one of the deepest people I've ever come across. Jaco Pastorius, born in 1951 and died in 1987. He's an American jazz bassist, member of Weather Report from 76 to 81. He worked with Pat Metheny, Joni Mitchell, and recorded as a soloist and as a band leader. He mixed jazz with funk, performed dynamic bass, soloing with plucking and harmonics. He is the only electric bass player, one of 7 bassists in Downbeat's Jazz Hall of Fame. On electric jazz bass, he is considered the greatest of all time. Born in Norristown, Pennsylvania, his dad was a jazz drummer who was usually out on the road. When he was 8, his family moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and he grew up loving the beach, the woods, and sports. He played drums until he injured his wrist playing football when he was 13. In '68, he bought an upright bass. Florida weather is too humid for these instruments, so he traded it in for a '62 Fender jazz bass. At the University of Miami, he met Pat Metheny. With Paul Bley, they recorded an album titled Jaco. He saw Weather Report in concert. Backstage, he approached keyboardist Joe Zawinul to discuss music. When Alphonso Johnson left the band, Zawinul asked Pastorius to join. Jaco made his debut on the album Black Water in 1976. And he left the band in 1981 because he didn't like the new synthesizer direction they were taking. Surprise, surprise. He went and put out his word of mouth album in '81 with a 21-piece band. Take that, synthesizer. In '82, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but he was unconcerned. It was just his freewheeling personality. Word of mouth sold poorly, rendering him homeless. He provoked bar fights, and he allowed people to beat him up. He snuck into a Santana concert on September 11th in 1987. He had to be forcibly ejected. He then made his way to the Midnight Bottle Club in Wilton Manors, Florida, kicked in a glass door and had a violent confrontation with the manager, who was a martial arts expert. Jaco was hospitalized with facial fractures and a broken arm, and he fell into a coma, and a brain hemorrhage led to his brain death. He was taken off life support on September 21st, 1987, and he was 35 years old. Jaco brought the bass to the forefront. Prior to Jaco, a bassist would typically stand back with the drummer, forming the rhythm section of the band. Sax, trumpets, or vocalists handled the melody and usually led the band. Jaco pulled the frets out of the neck of his bass, making it a fretless bass. I tried that, yeah. He played fast, loud, sang, and did flips on stage. No, I didn't try that. He spread baby powder on the stage so he could do splits like James Brown. Why not? He joked with his audience in between songs. He considered himself a self-styled beach bum. He often played barefoot and shirtless. His thumbs were double jointed, his fingers long and thin. He was a muscular and physically imposing person and an athletic showman. Harmonics on electric bass are achieved by playing a note without pressing the string down to the neck. This technique led to his playing fretless. He used Hartke speakers for their bright sound, and he used fuzz tone, chorus, and digital delay, which are typically guitar effects. He played with Ian Hunter and Mott the Hoople on their All-American Boy album in '76. And he played with Airtube on his I'm Fine, How Are You in '77. And he appeared on Joni Mitchell's Hajera, maybe that's Hayera, sorry, with Al Di Meola on his Land of the Midnight Sun. 2 Grammy nominations and dedication albums by Pat Metheny, Miles Davis, John McLaughlin, and more. And here is a list of the records. 74, Jaco. 76, Jaco Pastorius. 76, Black Market. 81, Word of Mouth. 83, Invitation. 86, Stuttgart Aria. 93, Holiday for Pans. 95, The Birthday Concert. 97, A Good Stitch for Golden Roads. 2006, the early recordings. Obviously, these are posthumously released. 07, A Trio of Doom with John McLaughlin and Tony Williams. I guess John McLaughlin put that one out. 2014, Modern American Music. Yeah, I guess that was what it was. And in 17, Truth, Liberty, and Soul. And here's what he had with Weather Report. 1, Black Market. 2, Heavy Weather. 3, Mr. Gone. 4, 8:30. 5, Night Passage. 6, Weather Report, Live and Unreleased, number 7. And 8, Forecast Tomorrow. And 9, the legendary live tapes. Now, I know you will probably be saying, but Pete, you said that John Entwistle was the greatest bass player of all time. Not so. I said John Entwistle is the greatest rock bass player of all time. And this, it's not rock. This is jazz. From which rock sprung, along with blues, which you all probably already know. To find rock's roots, you need to go into R&B. To find R&B roots, you need to go into blues and jazz. And there were a lot of people back in the 30s whose music is still being played today. And I want for music like Jaco Pastorius to continue to be played today. But only if we can show an interest. I'm not saying run out to the store and buy all his albums. I'm just saying, just go buy a bass and figure out how to play. It's the most fun there is. The instrument almost plays itself. Well, anyway, thanks for being with me. I'm East Coast Pete. Subscriptions are rolling in, and likes can't be too far behind. It's not like I'm trying to monetize. It's just that the more the merrier, you know. I'm putting out some of my best stuff now, and in the future I plan to do a segment of English folk music that's pretty eclectic and not well known, but it needs to be out there. As always, peace.